madrigal. Had to look that word up. So this is season 5 of Breaking Bad. This is episode 2, if I'm not mistaken. It'll be in the description if it's otherwise. It's titled Madrigal. Of course, I looked that word up. Like, what is that? Apparently, it's just used. It's a name for a part of a song, basically, but like a complex part of the song or something like that makes any sense. Which kind of does describe this episode in a nutshell. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a stretch, but it does describe the episode. So this episode, I finally got the head enforcer's name for the late Gustavo. It's Mike. Simple enough. So you're gonna see this episode is so good. It is so good. This episode defines what quality entertainment should be. I'm serious. This last season has so far, 2 episodes in, has been nothing but just great viewing pleasure. It's given me nothing but, I can't even explain it. I'm speechless. But so in this episode, you're gonna see Mike, the head enforcer. You're gonna see Mr. White. You're gonna see Pinkman. You're gonna see Saul. You're gonna see his wife. You're gonna see Hank and his partner. Now I'm just gonna jump into that. Hank and his partner, the chemistry between these two actors is real, and you see their little banter going back and forth with one another. And when they get Mike in that interrogating room, it's unbelievably well done. I really need to boost my vocabulary to better explain what I'm watching here. I cannot believe. So I know I'm kind of like cutting myself off. I just got done watching it. So 1, I'm trying to process it, and 2, I'm trying to put together a eloquent speech, if that'll fly. I'm trying to put together my thoughts. So you know a little bit about Mike. You know his backstory. He was an ex-cop, and he's a private investigator, and he's just overall a talented person. Now you put that in the room with these 2 guys. They have all been in and around law enforcement, and I wouldn't say done shady things, but they know their way around the psychological aspect of humans, and also the gravity of what they're doing. You know, it's life and death, and it's a crazy chess game that they're involved in. Now, you put those 3 characters in the room, and you get, for lack of a better term, magic. It was, as short as it was super intense and just very calculated. Everything was doing. The actor who plays Mike, his performance was so good. I'm involved in it. It's like I'm sitting there watching it. It was so great to watch. But the only reason he's in there is because now the dust is starting to settle around Gustavo passing away or being murdered. Let me try to sugarcoat it. The dust is starting to settle. So all these things are starting to appear. So all the people that are involved in his operation are starting to get put underneath a little bit of pressure. All their money's being taken away by the government. Some of them are scared. They're doing drastic things. They lose 2 guys. Out of this process because a lady who's involved is shooken up by this, and she's like, well, she thinks the way that I would think in the situation. Hey, I don't know these people, and it's best if they just disappear. And you go to the person who you feel could best do that job, which is Mike. But Mike's a little bit, like I said, he's a very talented man. At least the character is. So he has clearer thinking when it comes to this. So he's like, everything will be fine. But of course, her actions, in which also would also happen in real life, her actions causes reactions throughout the whole chain. So 2 people wind up getting killed. Now, but he sees an opportunity there because the money is gone. He had like $2 million in there, and the only thing he was doing this for was to ensure that his granddaughter would be taken care of, which I think that's partly partly TV magic, I guess, because it's like, well, I don't really need anything, but my kids probably would need something, but then you really want your granddaughter to be fine, which they're talking about generational wealth or something like that. I don't know, maybe I'm reaching on that one. But I also want to take a look at, I think I want to save the best for last anyway. I'm going to take a look at Pinkman and Mr. White. Now, Saul comes into play because he's somehow helping be a mediator. Now, for some reason, I want to speak on Mr. White. I know I'm jumping around, but for some reason, Mr. White, you saw hints of this like alter ego or this Heisenberg persona from this character. You've seen hints of it like fully take over. It's kind of like the Hulk or something like that. You know what I mean? You've seen hints of it in earlier episodes and previous seasons, but something always kind of like rocks him back to reality. To you're Mr. White. You're not this Heisenberg character. But now I feel like he's almost becoming Heisenberg, if that makes any sense. Like he's becoming more cold and callous, and he's trying to take Gustavo's place, which I'm like, I don't know. I'm waiting to see how they play this. I'm like, I don't see that. And there's a lot of emotion in this episode as well, because Pinkman is, I mean, since they've been through what they've been through, like surviving almost being murdered and taking somebody out, and him almost losing people he cares about, their worlds have been shooken to the foundation, and Pinkman feels so comfortable with Mr. White now. Maybe it's not the fact that he feels comfortable. Maybe he's just at a point of no return. He's had enough. He opens up completely to Mr. White. He lets out so much emotion when he realizes that he's made a mistake. But the whole time, Mr. White is playing chess. Definitely, he's in control of this game right now. I'm so excited to see where this turns. But Pinkman opens up to him. They're looking for that cigarette with the poison in it, and Mr. White fabricates another one and orchestrates it so Pinkman can find it and there's a rush of relief that comes over him. And I want to also speak on the way that scene was introduced. Mr. White Mr. White is doing something else, and all you hear is the phone conversation over the actions that he's completing, the tasks he's completing at that particular moment, which is like a great setup. Also, I'm going to leave that for last. I talked about Hank, I've talked about Mr. White and Pinkman's relationship. I touched on that anyway. I've talked about Mike, but there's so much more to speak on with Mike, but I can't, I don't feel like giving away every little detail of this episode because it deserves a watch. Now, can you watch this as a standalone by itself? I don't think so, because you haven't taken the full journey, I don't think, through all the previous episodes to this point. There's a level of build-up necessary in order for you have to cultivate a relationship with these characters in order to, I guess to be so into it as I am. I think you have to have that relationship built up over these 4 or 5 seasons. I guess I've come to the end. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to see where this series is gonna go. I guess I will speak on. Who did I touch on? I touched on them. I touched on him. I touched on them. I even touched on that lady. Oh well, I didn't bring up the fact that Mr. White is making plays, and he's trying to get basically all the old operators in this last, and all the old operators that were under Gustavo. He's trying to get all those guys to come and play ball with him and his new empire, which I'm like, I don't know. I'm curious to see where that's going to go. And I'm also leaving out the the German connection. They didn't really touch on it. They touched on it, but they didn't go into too much detail about what type of involvement they have in it. And those routing numbers I saw, they came into play. That's how all these individuals are now being incarcerated, and all their accounts are being frozen and taken. It's like, dang it. There's always a negative outcome when you well, not necessarily a negative outcome. There's always for every action there's a reaction. Okay, now I want to touch on Mrs. White. You have all this going on in this episode, and at the same time, you have Mrs. White. I had to think about it. If a person isn't, I guess, spiritually prepared to deal with another individual's actions or way of living, it can be so shocking to them that they just clam up. I think that's based in reality. I think that's real. And that's what her character is doing. Mr. White hasn't said anything, but he's pretty much I mean, you can't get no more what's the word I'm looking for? You can't get no more acknowledgement, I guess is the right word. You can't get no more sure of somebody that they've done something without them actually saying it than the way that he's done it. So she's obviously like, hey, bro, I don't know what you got going on, but it's not that type of party. I didn't sign up for this. He's blowing people up with bombs and killing people and manufacturing and selling drugs. But her acting skills in here are they're above. I think all these actors have found a second wind or another switch or another gear, and just now they're running on all cylinders. And me as a viewer, I get the reward of that, along with the writers too. I get to reap the rewards. Is that the right way to say it? I get to see my reward is watching them perform right now. It's just the emotion that she's able to bring out as this character. She's not, she's basically not getting out of bed. She's bathing. I'm assuming at this point she's wishing it was all just a bad dream and she doesn't want to deal with this anymore. But it's her reality. It's what she has to live through right now. And Mr. White, of course, I guess he's came and passed that bridge a long time ago. So he's pretty much good with it. And also, I think that alter persona is starting to take over Heisenberg. But I'm still excited to see what's going to happen next. And that's all I have to say.